They're big, they're hairy, and above all, scary. Tarantulas. And the fiercest of them all live in Australia.
The big thing that tells us that this is an Australian spider when we see it is it's downright cantankerous. You've got to be very, very careful with these guys. They'll turn around and hit you with their fangs as soon as they blink at you.
They are the giants of the spider kingdom, but strangely, we invite more and more of them into our homes. Whether we hate them or love them, tarantulas trigger instant emotions. And for some, that fascination goes well beyond the pet shop. But however we feel about them, we don't even know who they are. And soon, we could lose many of them forever. No other spider has a star cloud named after it. And wherever they live, we've given tarantulas their own special names. Bird-eating spider, king baboon spider, or earth tigers. But what makes a tarantula a tarantula? Fact is, they're the oldest spiders on the planet and have venomous fangs to rival many snakes. To scientists, they're known as the primitive spiders of the family Theraphacidae. And they all have a unique combination of 5 characteristics. Number 1, they are very hairy. Number 2, at the ends of their 8 long legs, they have dense hair pads and retractable claws like a cat. Number 3, their spinnerets are extremely long and shaped like fingers. Number 4, they have hundreds of black studs around their mouthparts. Scientists call them cuspules, and they're used to crush food. And number 5, they have no fewer than 8 eyes in rectangular position, but remain almost blind. While other spiders might own 1 or 2 of these, only tarantulas have all 5. Primitive spiders are the creators of silk. These ancient weaving masters can produce 4 different kinds of silk strands. Silk is a natural antibiotic and keeps their underground homes perfectly clean. They use it to line and strengthen their burrows. From their doorstep they lay out a welcome mat of delicate trip lines which work like an early warning system. While out of sight in its burrow, the spider can detect any movement around. Silk is the extension of their body and senses, and they read all the signals of the outside world with the hairs on their highly sensitive legs. They can feel, hear, and even taste with them. One person determined to reveal their secrets is Australian taxonomist Dr. Robert Raven. Dr. Raven is the acknowledged world authority on tarantulas. For more than 20 years, his focus has been firmly on these feisty fighters.
I'm looking for small holes, some order in the system.
His mission is to find a new species. It's taken him from America to Asia and back to Australia.
Very hairy abdomen. She hasn't been to the hairdresser. Small one, but it's okay.
Worldwide, more than 800 tarantula species have been identified, but as many as 2,000 are still out there without a name. Dr. Raven's spider headquarters is at the Queensland Museum in Brisbane. The museum's vast collection of hairy specimens also includes the 6 tarantula species named in Australia. Feared for their murderous reputation, tarantulas still are the ultimate nightmare for most of us, dead or alive. One person whose life was run by his spider phobia is Warwick Angus.
Need to pick up some of her remains from dinner.
Up until university, Warwick couldn't even look at a photo of these hairy crawlers without having a panic attack.
As a child, I was very scared of spiders. I was arachnophobic. In fact, it was so bad if there was a large spider inside, I couldn't be in that room with that spider. I would feel like the spiders on my body, even though I knew it wasn't. I'd feel like it was, and so I'd have to leave the room and quickly start removing my jumper or shirt or whatever it was, just because I felt like it was on me and I had to get away from it. And it's horrific because that animal's got control of your life.
The only way out was to confront his phobia and to learn about the creature that terrified him.
Pretty good to me. What do you think?
Well,
Step by step, fascination took over his fear. Now he and partner Simone happily share their home with pet tarantula Incy Wincy. But he's never lost sight of her scary nature.
Bird-eating spiders certainly are venomous and potentially dangerous. So they're definitely not a pet to be cuddled and kissed, if you like you're a domestic cat or a domestic dog. What's very interesting, though, is that most people that are scared of spiders are not afraid of the venom. They're not afraid of the spider biting them. They're more afraid of the spider walking on them.
Was, do you want to take it back?
Sure.
Each spider has its own personality. Compared to their American cousins, the Australians are notorious for their short tempers, especially in the wild. From the tropics to the deserts, when provoked, they quickly lose their cool and attack. And another characteristic sets them apart. They make sounds that can be heard meters away. These noisy temper tantrums intrigue spider ecologist Dr. Tracy Churchill.
Come on, don't you want to be a star?
Persistence pays off and Tracy manages to get her flying performance.
Excellent. You go over there.
When threatened, American tarantulas fire off stinging hairs, but the Australians generate a hissing sound by rubbing together their mouthparts.
The sound that they generate, we've only just started to analyse, and it varies between species. We think that the sound is a defensive sound to offend small mammals and most likely marsupials, which would be significant predators to them. And the frequency range is certainly consistent with that. We have one tarantula that makes a fantastic sound, certainly more melodic compared to a lot of the other species. There's a more trickling brook sound to it, if you like. We have to be a bit guarded about where this particular spider's come from, particularly now because of the pet trade and the interest people may have in removing these spiders from the wild.
Well hidden in the dense rainforest of Australia's tropical north live the largest whistlers known. Stuart Douglas has been tracing them for 10 years. Stuart holds Australia's first and only licence to captive breed native tarantulas. He often checks on wild colonies but makes sure word doesn't get out.
I'm so secretive about my locations, mainly because I have been pretty loose in the past, and I've seen whole colonies wiped out because I've accidentally told people about where I got tarantulas from, and busloads of people from down south, not just one or two cars, deliberately come up here and plunder our tarantula fields. They're taking every spider.
Stuart's backyard is home to many unknown tarantula species.
Yeah, there's one.
Often they end up in pet shops before scientists even have a chance to look at them. Stuart sometimes needs to capture a single female to freshen up his breeding stock.
Yep, there she is. It's a good one.
This female won't end up in a city pet shop, but instead help her wild sisters to survive.
Now I'll just give her a little tap, she'll come straight out.
The spider's in an exceptionally good mood and unlikely to give him a painful bite.
She doesn't seem that aggressive. At any time, this spider could bite me. If she had been really aggressive and been striking at me when I dug her out, no, I wouldn't have picked her up.
Back at his breeding base, Stuart's new specimen joins 500 others. Only 60 of these are mature females. The rest are young males and juveniles.
These are my captive bred Phagilus tarantulas. They're really placid, so they don't bite much. It's just, a lot of people like to keep them because of that reason. This one's about 1.5 years old. These ones here are my little babies, so no, they're not going to bite me at all. But a captive bred spider can never be tamed. There's no guarantee that it won't bite you. But basically, it's going to adapt a lot better to being around humans as a pet. Go on.
To hand rear spiderlings to maturity takes Stuart about 4 years. But the market is desperate for supplies.
This one wants to bite me. 10 years ago, there wasn't very much interest in them at all as pets. It was very much a novelty. In the last 2 years, really, it's just exploded in Australia. Now, a lot of people have big collections of tarantulas. The dog and the cat is a bit old, and, who wants a dog in your backyard barking all the time?
Australians aren't the only fans of exotic pets. In England, there will soon be more reptiles than dogs kept at home, and spiders are set to catch up fast. Tarantulas are basically homebodies. Only once a year, with the onset of winter, do mature males leave their lonely lives and go in search of a female. She might be kilometers away. To find her, he senses the ground for her smell, or pheromones. If she's ready for romance, she's laid down a specially scented silk that will lead him to the lady in residence. Immediately he starts courting her with a kind of tap dance. His sperm is charged in the dark bulbs on his pedipalps, which have become his sexual organs. Determined to lure her out, he continues to drum home his mating message, even though she might grab him for dinner instead. He is programmed to mate, and nothing, not even her dangerously bad temper, holds him back. A less than welcoming attack abruptly ends their first embrace. Far from put off, he's willing to prove he's got what it takes. Finally, his rhythmic advances pay off, and she emerges from her burrow. He still can't be sure of her. She's liable to strike at any time, so he takes up his tapping routine again, just to be sure. Rearing up, she's an impressive sight, towering over her smaller suitor. He quickly tries to couple with her. But it's an awkward maneuver and often takes several attempts. Finally, success. The tip of his bulb penetrates and he injects his sperm. And that's where the love match ends. If he's lucky, he'll escape the dinner date. Female tarantulas sometimes dine on their mates post-coitally, but either way, his fate is sealed. If he's still keen on romance, he'll have to look elsewhere. But his time is running out. Males die shortly after their first and only mating season. It's the females that live on, and they're the ones in demand worldwide. On the other side of the globe, a growing number of spider clubs proudly present their hairy stars at annual shows. Tarantulas face their biggest fans in the US, England, and here in Germany. The demand for giant spiders is booming and includes the new kids on the block, the rare cousins from down under, as Mark Voskamper knows.
The story with the Australian spiders is that they're certainly very popular, but it's very hard to get them. At the moment, it's almost impossible to buy Australian bird eaters, and therefore we're very interested to actually breed them and raise their numbers on the market.
Captive breeding, not wild collecting, is the declared policy. Yet breeding programs take years to set up, while the number of spider enthusiasts is exploding. The fascination with tarantulas speaks a common language at clubs around the world. Michael Kula has been a tarantula fan for 15 years. As a keen hobbyist, he's always hands-on at his club's exhibitions, and his hairy-legged friends continue to run his life at home.
It all started when I was 10, and when I saw a live bird-eating spider for the first time, I instantly fell in love with it. Years later, when I finally turned 18, I went and bought my first bird-eater. Now I have around 300 spiders at home, and what fascinates me most about them is how different they are. There are so many species and different colors and behaviors. That's what really gripped me. It's a hobby I'll never give up.
Tarantulas make the perfect low-maintenance pet. They're clean, don't need much care, prefer to live alone, and don't need much food. One meal a week can keep them happy for up to 30 years. Enough time for bonding with their human housemates. And it seems these ancient creatures often cast a spell on their two-legged masters. Like many before him, Michael quickly grew from spider keeper to avid collector. Once that fever sets in, no expense is spared.
So far, the hobby has cost me about 20,000 euro, and that includes the whole setup as you see it here. And I haven't bought my last spider yet.
Until captive breeding is enforced on a global scale, spiders will continue to be plundered from the wild. The vast deserts of Australia's Red Centre have long been a safe hideaway for many unknown tarantulas. To uncover their silky tracks, Dr. Raven and his museum colleague Dr. Bear have travelled more than 2,000 kilometres inland.
Maybe on the wet brush is pretty good.
Yeah. We are the biggest threat to tarantulas in the world today. The numbers of tarantulas that have been taken out of the wild in Australia alone is spectacular.
My estimate is around about 10,000 a year.
And I don't know how it's being sustained. We don't know which species they're taking out, and they have an important role in the system. And until we understand those roles, we shouldn't be knocking them off, killing them, taking them out of the wild, and not recognising what's going on. It's a very, very dangerous situation.
The race to save the spiders is on, but it's vexed. To gain protection, they must first be scientifically identified. An arduous process even for an expert like Dr. Raven.
Yeah, so we just leave the stuff here. So if you put a tag up here...
Plateaus close to riverbeds are favourite tarantula haunts, but their well-hidden homes are few and far between.
We've got to search in a very grid-like fashion, very rigorous and meticulous pattern. It's an extremely interesting detective job because it puts you face to face with all of your little laboratory ideas. You know, how does what you saw under the microscope relate to what's going on out here? This is life. This is where it's all at. And you've got to try and map that information that you've got on the micro level and at the higher level. What's going on? We don't know. And that's one of the wonderful things about being in the field. It's reality hitting you in the face.
Oh, there we go, look, there's a bit of web.
Oh, there's one.
The spider detectives are lucky on their first day. When you find a big female, there are often more spiders nearby.
Thank you.
It's a pretty rough burrow. She's worked very hard at this.
Peering down the entrance gives Dr. Raven better clues on the burrow's direction.
I can't see the spider. She may go parallel.
But what I'll do is I'll get you just put the endoscope out.
Desert tarantulas dig their tunnels deep underground where it's dark and moist.
Collecting spiders like this is a really grotty job. It's absolutely grotty. You're stirring up dust, you're stirring up flies and dirt's getting in your face and in your eyes, under your nails. But it's a wonderful job because you're unfolding something new as you're doing it, minute by minute.
One painstaking hour later, they're getting closer to the main chamber. Now they need to locate her before digging any closer.
Oh, there she is. She's beautiful.
Oh, really?
Oh, big and fat. Oh, big lady. She's not happy about the disturbance, that's for sure.
Not happy indeed. The trapped female has long sensed her intruder is much too big to overpower. Now she can run for her life or fight for it.
Thick front legs.
Thankfully, she decides to sink her fangs into the long end of the stick.
She's a beauty, huh?
Oh, she's wonderful.
I can't figure out which one she is.
Oops.
Maybe she's sterling eye.
The stress of being caught could easily kill her. It's time to cool down.
All that work for one spider.
Yes, that's very hard.
I feel like a bear.
It's on nightfall that tarantulas start planning dinner. Prowling insects make a tasty bite. Hidden at the entrance, the spider can sense every step of its wandering prey. The vibrations of the silken radar system signal the whereabouts and size of the potential meal. Usually, tarantulas sit and wait in ambush until the prey comes close to them. But if they're really hungry, they'll venture out and stalk their food. Within the blink of an eye, the spider pounces and impales its prey on its deadly fangs. Once back in the burrow, it takes its time to prepare the kill. While the injected venom paralyzes and slowly liquefies the prey's inner organs, many spiders will lay down a silky feeding mat. It's not yet known why, but it seems to be a spidery form of food wrapping, providing packaged meals which can be stored away and tucked into later. Spiders can't eat solid food. With no jaws and only a tiny slit-like mouth between their fangs, they rely on their venom to turn their prey's innards into a creamy, highly nutritious soup. They use their powerful sucking stomach to drink up the carcass. One big meal can last for months. Tarantulas are carnivores and not fussy. Many are known as bird-eating spiders, but in fact birds are rarely on the menu. Just about anything else, small and alive, is.
Yes, I see that.
On the second patella?
Yep.
Back at their field camp, Dr. Raven and Dr. Bear take a close look at their latest find.
And the front one. If you had a choice between...
The important question is, does this spider belong to a known species, or does it show new characteristics?
And here.
Clearly thicker than four, but too subby.
Even though tarantulas are the biggest spiders in the world, the differences between species can be small and very hard to spot.
I can't see the underneath at the moment.
See the
Leg by leg they search for clues. Slowly, a catalogue of body features builds up.
looks like it's definitely not sterling eye.
Okay.
So pass it over, I need to see the...
Only detailed examinations back at the museum will reveal her spider family tree. These baseline studies are crucial for further research on its ecological role, lifestyle, and venom.
That really takes it right out of sterling eye and probably makes it a new species. You must check into that.
Stuart Douglas not only breeds his tarantulas for the pet market, he also milks their potent venom for medical research.
There's a number of procedures, but the one I like to use is the anaesthetisation and electric stimulation technique. And I anaesthetise them with carbon dioxide. I find that you get a lot more venom yield from that technique. And it's a lot less damaging to the spiders. A lot of people out there actually cut the glands out. And once you do that, the spider's dead, of course. My captive bred one's mainly for venom sales, so every spider I lose is a great loss to me.
In less than a minute, the spider lady is blissfully unconscious, and Stuart quickly sets up for the milking. He's only got a couple of minutes before she'll wake up in a bad mood. Seated in a milking cradle, the spider's venom glands are stimulated by a slight electrical current. Carefully timed shocks to her fang base prompt the venom to flow. Tarantulas have been refining their toxins for millions of years, long before the dinosaur age. Their ancient venom could provide the key for major breakthroughs in human medicine. But it's still early days.
There's a lot of problems with venom collection, the slightest grain or hair in there, or sometimes the fang actually chips a little piece off and gets contaminated. So there's a lot of little tricks to it. It's not as easy as you make out, you know. But my company is very confident that we will be finding something in the venom that we supply. How long it takes and whether it'll actually happen, you know, is up to the animals.
And to the venom researchers. Analyzing the toxins is Dr. David Wilson from the pharmaceutical company Xenome. Tarantula venom is deadly to small mammals and can kill the family dog in less than 30 minutes. But despite common fears, it is not known to be deadly to us.
We don't really know yet whether Australian tarantulas are all that dangerous to humans. We do know that they do cause periods of vomiting over several hours. Nobody's died yet, but there are so many species that just haven't been characterised yet that we really can't answer that question.
What Dr. Wilson tries to determine is whether the venom could lead to a new kind of drug, a radical new painkiller to treat cancer or AIDS without the current problems of addiction or tolerance. Such a drug would kick in when morphine can't help anymore. Xenome's team is the only one worldwide to explore the toxins of Australian tarantulas. US scientists have just developed a new heart medication courtesy of a South American species, and Chinese research teams are on the case as well. Rather than posing a deadly threat to us, tarantulas could save our lives. Deep in the rainforests of the tropical north lurk the least known of all Australian tarantulas. And they're a diverse bunch. Some grow to impressive palm size, while others could hide in a matchbox. None of the spiders have been properly named yet, and so it's here that Dr. Raven and Dr. Bear come on their latest search. The wet undergrowth makes spider spotting a slippery challenge.
Okay.
Just grab hold of this big one here when you go down. It's very slippery here.
Yeah, it's quite slippery.
There's a big wait a while here, so yeah, just be careful. Look at the sharp line.
Tropical tarantulas have worked out their own clever way of sheltering. Every flat rock or hollow branch is a potential spider home.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I can see a web. Where's the spider?
Oh, she's getting up. I got her. There she is.
Oh, it looks good. So do you think that's maybe a new one?
Dunno, it might be.
This first catch looks promisingly different, but the little male can't provide all the clues.
If this is a male, we need a few just to make sure that we've got a female, because this could be quite exciting, you know. It'd be nice to pin these guys down.
Young males don't show all the characters of their family, and to name a new species with certainty, Dr. Raven needs to find a matching female. She should be living nearby.
So let's have a look under that one.
Look, that's there.
Oh, look, there she is.
Oh, yes.
Oh, beauty. And look at that, completely different.
Not down in any way.
No burrow at all.
We better get down to work. See if we can get her, huh?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just see how she's going to go. Now, let's see if we go in there.
Okay. Good, yeah. Okay.
Oh, she's beautiful, yeah.
Within weeks or months of the mating, depending on the species, the female spins a strong papery cocoon that safely holds her eggs. Turning and ventilating the egg sac for hours every day, she makes sure the eggs inside don't stick together. The mother-to-be vigilantly stands guard over her brood and only rarely leaves the sac to tend to the nursery. Some species completely block the entrance to keep anything out that could harm the cocoon. Invading ants pose a serious threat. As the weeks go by, she can feel the hatchlings kicking and pushing within the sac. It won't be long before they burst out. Depending on the species, the female spends months on her toes without food until her brood breaks out of their silky shell. They're pin-sized and a bit wobbly on their 8 legs, but otherwise equipped with a perfectly working body. Hundreds of tiny hatchlings have to find their way to the exit, and Mum finally gets a break. But a high mortality rate means only 1 in 10 of these spiderlings will survive. But where to go from here? Instinctively, the little marchers follow the freshly laid silk to a resting spot in the nursery. The darker it is, the safer it feels. Here they will hang out together until their bodies harden up enough to face the outside world. Back from his field trip, Dr. Raven has preserved some of the collected spiders in alcohol. Now he must closely examine their bodies to decide which are new species. The rainforest tarantula looks very distinctive, and in typical spider fashion, its legs are the biggest giveaway.
The 4th legs are much thicker. From a leg you can just about learn anything you like about a lot of spiders, because there's a lot of information on the legs. That's different. It's got a 3rd claw.
The additional claw is remarkable.
What's going on between the chelicerae?
But the fangs will reveal something even more distinctive. Something Dr. Raven has rarely seen in 20 years of spider study. A small cluster of black spines between the fangs.
This is new. It's got intercrucial spines. Yep, this is new. Okay, let's go ahead. This is clearly a new species. It's really exciting because it's got characters that merge the problems of the separation of two genera. So it's not just simply another new species, it's something that may actually compromise two genera and the boundaries that we've set for these artificial little groups.
Now this new tarantula species needs a name, and the truly painstaking part of Dr. Raven's research begins. All critical body parts are separated, cleaned and prepared for scanning under the electron microscope. Mounted on stubs, the body parts are placed into a vacuum machine and coated with an extremely fine layer of gold. The scanner can magnify the gold-plated limbs up to 50,000 times, making tiny hairs appear like massive tree trunks.
We can see hairs within hairs within hairs. Even in some cases you can see bacteria stuck on the cuticle.
The shape of the hair tells much about its role, whether it's for food filtering or measuring temperature. Scanning allows Dr. Raven to build up a dictionary of characters, and put together, they determine the spider's family tree.
On these spines on the front face of the chelicerae, in a normal light microscope situation, we would see these big black things and we couldn't do any more. And significantly, they are not the same sculpturing as the adjacent hairs. They're very short, strong spines, and they've all got this short, hook-like tip, which is very unusual.
Another member of the museum's spider team is biologist Marta Yanez. She specializes in the tarantulas of her native country, Mexico. Every few months a new batch of dead spiders arrives to join the queue for a name, but Marta's main work is with live animals. She brought a few hundred spiders with her from Mexico, so prized they must live at a top-secret location. Many of Marta's spiders have a troubled past. Some were confiscated from illegal pet traffickers as far away as Germany, and they're still in danger.
The location is kept secret because the whole genus Brachypelma is the only tarantula, the only spider actually that is protected. They are very valuable collection because we got here adults and also spiderlings. So it can be very attractive for people that trade with them to break in and to take the spiders out and selling them as pets.
Back in the 1970s, the beauty and easy temper of the Brachypelma spiders started the pet craze around the world. They are the original pet and were almost plundered out of existence. Today they are protected worldwide, but the Mexican experience should sound a warning.
Populations that are actually decreasing because of the habitat degradation and also because of illegal trafficking. So that's actually one of the biggest problems around the world. That's what do you do first? Do a study to know whether the species is in danger? Or do you really first protect the species straight away and then do the studies? In my opinion, you need to protect the species and then you do the studies.
So the big question is, who should be afraid of who? And poaching is not the spider's only worry. In some countries, tarantulas are seen as a tasty snack. Here in Cambodia, locals prefer their tarantulas freshly caught. Spiced with a touch of salt and a hint of garlic, they end up as a stir-fried meal. But these hairy mouthfuls aren't just a snack for poor families. Tarantulas are big business. 4,000 of them have just arrived at the village of Skuon. Dug out of the forest and defanged one by one, the spiders are sold as live food to the market vendors. For many families, this crawly load is their only income, so competition is fierce. Pickled in rice wine, they are sold as a traditional remedy for back pain and sleepless nights. but most end up hot and crispy. Affectionately known as Spiderville, Skuon is renowned for its hairy delicacies. Still warm, they're offered takeaway style at the busy market intersection. People travel from as far as the capital Phnom Penh, 90 kilometers away, to buy the crunchy treat for about 10 cents a piece. The real gourmets hand-pick their finger food. The legs have to be crunchy, the protein-rich bodies still juicy. To outsiders, this might look like extreme cuisine. To the locals, spiders have been a delicacy for hundreds of years. Just how the sheer numbers of hairy bites can be sustained is a frightening question. 10 days after emerging from the egg sac, the spiderling's soft bodies have begun to harden, and the rapidly growing brood literally crams up the nursery. For Mum, every move is a balancing act. Careful not to step on the babies, she delicately maneuvers around the nursery. Until now, the spiderlings have grown from the stored energy of their egg yolk. But now it's time for some real food. Small insects such as termites make a juicy meal, and the hungry young will take on anything that is smaller than they are. The 10% of spiderlings that reach maturity have a long life ahead of them. Males live for 4 to 5 years, but females can survive for an incredible 30 years. Only this early childhood is spent in a crowded household. Soon they'll venture out on their own. Once food runs short inside, the spiderlings will start cannibalizing each other. A sure sign it's time to leave and go it alone.
So, who are you and where do you come from? Let's figure this all out.
After months of research, Dr. Raven has now confirmed that his rainforest tarantula is in fact a new species.
So we've got a new species, and Creamionemus is forced, it's the genus name. Creamionemus tropics. Tropics because it comes from the North Tropics, and the X is a little twist on the end. It's Tropix, a little twist because it's a crossover species, and it'll get those people who like having precise names a little twisted themselves.
Tropix has secured its passport into our scientific world. Whether it will be a ticket to exploitation or protection, only time will tell. But in Dr. Raven's eyes, there is no doubt about what they deserve, named or not.
There is one primary reason why tarantulas should survive. They have every right. They are a species as valid as we are. They have every right to exist. Everything else on top of that is secondary.
Tarantulas have been roaming the earth for more than 300 million years. They've survived ice ages, meteor showers, myth and phobia. And modern man's fascination doesn't need to be a threat.
What I'd really like to see happen is that the humans who are involved with these animals get together. A really good cooperation between the professionals and the amateurs so that we have a good flow of information, that we're all helping each other help the spiders.
Today at One on Eden, we consider the fate of future Earth. But next, could an animal swarm help save the Earth from the greenhouse effect? Swarm, Nature's Incredible Invasions investigates.